excited for everybody to join us here today. Shout out to everybody who will listen to the recording on the YouTube side of things, and then big shout out to everybody on the Uni Terminal community. This was one that I saw on Twitter right around your launch. I know one of your marketers in the back end, Jay, and he's had really positive things to say about the project. But what really kickstarted the discussion for me was there's actually like a big whale group that you guys have been featured on. And I was asking about like a type of tech and like a platform. And one of the members in there, Marcel, just so happened to be like, "Hey, Maurice, have you ever checked out Unit?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" Like, I've seen the ticker, but I haven't really deep dive. I haven't been as active. And he's like, "Man, you got to look at these guys." He's like, honestly, simplest form of explaining it, because I know you're a finance guy, is like, think Bloomberg for crypto. And I was like, oh shit, that's big. So, I did do my deep dive. I love what you guys have kind of built up in terms of the all-in-one platform. And as I said in my write-up both times, the thing that pulled me in when I started doing my research about Unit and Unit Terminal was convenience. And, we're going to hear that word probably 10, 15 times throughout the AMA today. So if anybody gets a little tired of it, I apologize. But for me, it's the ease of access, ease of use of what you're trying to build. And when I was kind of told the comparative, it hit home in terms of I had some experience with Bloomberg in my previous days in university and finance. And I think, again, one of the biggest names. And if you guys can get your brand, your growth to even half of that, I mean, that's a very successful project, right? So you guys are already live, been downloaded over 9,000 times in the Chrome store with your web app extension, and you have over 3,000 active users, which is phenomenal for a project that's not even 1 month old. So I will say, from a kind of chart perspective, started on the market cap 20K launch. You guys have run up to just under shy of 8 million all-time high, pushing back towards 4 again today, which is nice. But a chart is the secondary focus with a project like this. It's all about the utility, all about the vision, and all about how you guys are going to scale the revenue side of things for token holders. So with that being said, Harry, I will throw you back the mic to introduce yourself, your role within the team here at Uni Terminal. And again, just really happy. The people who put me in touch with this and brought me onto it in the first place are some people that, again, really trust and have seen some big projects in the past through them. So happy to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Hey, yeah, so my name is Harry. I'm one of the co-founders at Uni Terminal. My role at Uni Terminal is I do many things, but mainly focused on, like business development, product design, research, and also dabble a bit with marketing. So I'm not the developer, unfortunately, because that's like the first question I get asked, or also what people tend to call me, but I'm not. So, my ability to answer any like, deep or, complex technical questions is going to be a little limited, but I do know a fair amount, so I can answer them, to an extent, and I'll try my best to do that. But anyway, yeah, who we are basically, I've been in the space for 4 years now, and I kind of got into it accidentally. Never really cared about crypto, to be honest. Didn't really understand the idea of, like digital money or digital like store value. Didn't really care for that. But 4 years ago, almost 4 years now, kind of at the start of COVID, I was home like everyone else, bored with nothing to do, and also, just trying to figure out how to survive through that whole mess. And it was actually my girlfriend who told me to look into crypto. And, I saw that like the price of Bitcoin had gone up and Ethereum. And so I kind of just started digging a little bit, and it was kind of gradual, but then very sudden, very quickly. Because, as I started digging into it, I started off just by trading myself, basically like day trading on centralized exchanges. And then from there, I started learning more about, like actual protocols built on Ethereum, like Uniswap, Yearn Finance, Aave, all of that. And that was when it all started to click for me and, started to make sense. And then I realized like, okay, this is actually going to, change the world. Like this has huge implications beyond, just being exchanged as money. So Ethereum was like really what changed it all for me. And what got me involved in the space and made me stay. So I've been doing it pretty much full time since 2020. That's all I do is pay attention to crypto. I've also worked with other DeFi projects as an advisor, also, writing content for projects, and really like kind of what I add as well is really breaking down kind of complex concepts and simplifying them to make them understandable for people. And I come at it from the perspective of someone who had to learn, from nothing. I kind of just picked these things up along the way and started studying these things myself. So I understand, like the difficulty that people have when trying to, like learn about these protocols. So that's about me. And then regarding the co-founder, the lead developer, so I met him actually pretty early on in the space, maybe like 3 months into being active. And we got together through an alpha group, started trading together, and over time just got to know each other, more and more. And eventually, like I realized he's actually an extremely talented developer. And, I consider myself lucky to even kind of like be graced with his presence because, like this guy, he's not an amateur developer. He's not someone who's been doing this for a couple of years. He's actually been studying and working, in blockchain related projects for about a decade now. And he does that at a pretty, expert level. He works for a massive financial institution that everyone here would recognize by name. And, he's the vice president of engineering there. So he's someone who not only is leading this project, but is also, like leading development at the company that he works for. So, yeah, he's extremely talented, very like well-rounded guy, and I'm glad to be working with him. So the idea for the project kind of came after seeing Unibot, and in particular Unibot X. And literally the day of when Unibot X launched, my immediate thought was like, this is interesting because they're trying to expand beyond just Telegram. And even though I think the Telegram interface is interesting, and I do think that it solves a pain point for users because, in 2020 when we would trade through Telegram, I remember I would go to MetaMask, put the URL address into the browser, and then, I try to connect my wallet. Many times the wallet wouldn't connect, and I was just like wasting minutes and minutes trying to just like simply connect my wallet and execute a trade. And so overall, like what we're seeing in the space, now like almost 4 years later, is kind of how, the infrastructure is changing, the tooling is changing, and it's changing not only in the sense of, in terms of its like complexity and becoming more advanced, but it's also becoming a lot simpler to navigate crypto, to trade. And, like these are ideas that we've been discussing for years. And, I'm sure everyone here has seen threads, articles, and, heard the point made many times that, in order for crypto to really be adopted, and in order for us to bring, like the next billion users, a major part of that is going to be, just improving basically the user experience. Because if this stuff is too complex to use, then it's going to be very difficult to onboard new users. So Unibot X I thought was impressive because to me it was just a clear indication of like, like we're finally here, like we're finally going in that direction. We're finally like simplifying the UI UX experience for users. And, just overall the experience of trading is becoming a lot better. But the other thought that I had was it didn't really go far enough. And the perspective that I had is kind of like, what they did was basically just built a dApp that kind of, like aggregates different tools, such as swapping and charts. These are tools that already exist there. And then it was done in the format of a dApp. And so it's just another screen that we have to look at among, the 10 other tools that we use. And so I started thinking about, like what is another way that we could solve this? And, like what could we build to actually simplify and enhance the trading experience? And that was pretty much how the idea of Uni Terminal came about and, what it was addressed to solve. And, we came at it from the perspective of people who, we've been trading for a long time. We're familiar with the tools that people use. We're familiar with, the frustrations that people have with trading. And, that's what guides every decision that we make with this tool, with every integration that we add. And also with our long-term roadmap is just, consistently and continuously improving on that. So yeah, that's my summary.
Yeah, no, really, really well done. And I figured you were right at the end. I've been kind of sometimes I'll come off mic too early, but I figured that was like a perfect segue. And you set me up really well, Harry. And when we had our prep call the other day, I said the AMA was going to be really enjoyable, and I'm already kind of seeing that it's coming together nicely because you segue and you give a lot of kind of like I like to call them breadcrumbs as a host for me to pick up on and really be able to follow up with some phenomenal questions. So I'm going to throw you a bit of an aside first, more of a market-based question, and just to get your
Hmm.
thoughts, like where do you think, I know you're big into the BRC20 stuff and the ordinals, so where do you think with this spot ETF potentially on the way, like what do you think that has to do for the market? And on the topic of bringing in new users, like you were mentioning, like how do you think this, big market moment may help, retail and, non-traditional Web3 users come in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me with the ETF is mainly legitimacy and kind of, it's like a huge signal to the world that like, okay, this stuff is here to stay and, it's only going to get bigger, which is, how do you get the largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, to, like participate in this if it wasn't a legitimate thing that was going to be around, for decades, most likely until, like all of us here on this call are gone. Um, so I think about it mainly in terms of the legitimacy that it brings to crypto, because there's really like nothing bigger than that, having, like the largest asset manager in the world launch this Bitcoin ETF and Ethereum ETF, and I'm sure many, many others are going to come as well. Um, but, obviously there's other elements to it in terms of, just the type of volume, the sheer amount of money that it's going to be flowing into crypto because of how this is going to make it like more accessible for people to enter the market. Um, but yeah, I think about it in those terms because to this day, whenever I meet people, outside of crypto, we're really living in a bubble still. And the vast majority of people that I talk to, like I'll get into a conversation, like with someone I meet at the bar, or like, I'll meet someone and tell them that like I work in the industry, and they to this day think it's a joke, but I honestly, I feel like in the next 12 months, it's like we'll be well beyond that, and, getting to the point where it's like everyone is kind of scrambling to get, to start investing. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, and the reason why I asked, I did have a point to that question. I know it's not really project related, but one of the things, and as a user of Bloomberg myself from back in university, the first time I went into the business lab, and they're like, "Yeah, go in and I forget what the task was. I had to pull a certain amount of stock or like trading information and then put it in a chart, and then I had to go back and use Excel, but they didn't really give you much direction, so." With me being newer to that platform, but having a bit of an understanding of, finances, trading and whatnot, I struggled. And it took me like a little bit of time to really understand the direction in which I was going and how to navigate it. So, being that this market moment we talked about with the spot ETF potentially being a big onboarder of new users into the space, your project is just full of information. Like that's the value of what you're building up with the terminal. But to somebody new, that information can be extremely confusing. So I really wanted to see how you guys at Uni Terminal are going to leverage this potential market growth and help with the onboarding and education because yeah, you have a unique opportunity being that you are like more of a hub and not so much siloed like some of these other projects.
Um, yeah, so to answer that, I'm gonna show a kind of Chrome store review, and I'll also talk about, like what is included in Uni Terminal so far, where we're at in terms of the project. But yeah, this review someone wrote where, like, they basically say, that over time, Uni Terminal might become the Binance level experience of on-chain trading. An all-in-one platform with custom front ends built for any on-chain tool you can imagine, all of them smoothly interacting with each other thanks to close partnerships with tooling providers. So I have no clue who this person is, who wrote it. I want to know so I can reward them in some way. But when I read this review, I was kind of like, okay, this person gets it. And the reason I'm bringing it up and mentioning Binance is because, like these centralized exchanges are kind of the first point of contact that many people have with crypto. When they're first starting to get into it, they go through Binance, Coinbase, or these other centralized exchanges, and they see all of these things like spot trading, futures trading, even though I'm sure most of them don't have a clue what futures trading, even means, never mind, like what it is or how to do it. So there's a lot that's going on, but we have these platforms already like Binance that are extremely successful in like onboarding users by, allowing them to enter the market. And so Uni Terminal, the difference between us and something like Binance and Coinbase is that we're focused more on the on-chain experience. And the on-chain, I still don't think it's as large as, users of centralized exchanges, but I do think it's going to be where the majority of users are interacting with crypto. And I think it's where most people are going to start being on board because of, DeFi, GambleFi, Gamify, like all of these different things that attract so many different types of users. And so I think being positioned there is the right approach for us. But it's also the area where there has been the least amount of progress in terms of the UI, UX experience and onboarding beginners. And so I'll talk about what Uni Terminal is, and we'll go through the Gitbook a little bit. But basically, it's an all-in-one trading terminal. It's a multi-chain tool. It's a multifunctional tool. And what it provides is essentially, like I'm sure everyone here has this experience of when they get into crypto, they are asking like, what charting tool should I use? And there's a variety from Dex Screener, Dex Tools, Defined, etc. Things like live pairs, swaps like Uniswap, Bridge and Mixer, GambleFi dApps like JustBet, or Senko Dream Machine, Perps, there's GMX, ARC, and then we also have track and scan tools. And then if you see the button here, more, basically when you go there, we also have integrations to Telegram, Discord, Frontech, and then also you can customize your settings there, which we'll be expanding on further in the future. But so in this current iteration, like this is pretty much like our MVP. There's a lot more that is going to come to Uni Terminal. This is nowhere near, like the end of what we envision it being. And so we have all of these features now that users can use, but we also like improve and kind of extend the functionality of them. So, one big thing is, if you're a new user, once you install this extension, you've pretty much unlocked, like the entire like crypto ecosystem, because all the tools that you could possibly need to get started, such as the charting tools or Dex, all of that is already included in the tool, and you just click the appropriate button. For example, you click chart, and like the chart is right there, and basically you can like expand this. Like you can resize it, minimize it, move it around, do whatever you want with it. And you can see here, like, like here's the chart. Actually, let me turn off my VPN because I think
one of the big selling features for you guys, just from having the demonstration up and seeing like how the funnel within the platform works, like the funnel of information. I always kind of compare things to a sales funnel, right? And the more click-throughs that you're going to have, the more times you maybe have to leave a main landing page and go elsewhere, you're going to lose, a percentage of your overall audience and potential user base every time you add in an additional step, right? So
yeah.
For me, the one thing that I liked, and our community knows that I've said this like 50 to 100 times in the past 2 years, the ability to keep people like within one page or within one hub, you're going to, if it's a 4-step process, say you lose 8% of people per step, well, you just saved yourself a potential 32% extra audience
Yeah,
by having
exactly.
them housed within your platform. So I don't know if you noticed, but the demo did drop down. I don't know if that was meant to happen or if it was maybe a Telegram issue. But I did just want to let you know in
Uh,
case you were still trying to show some stuff in the background as you were talking. But yeah,
yeah,
I just wanted to kind of jump in and say that piece because I like that. And from my sales background, I put it in the concept of a sales funnel. But
yeah,
you're gonna
it's
really save a lot of your audience that way. Really smart, really smart.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the concept, and yeah, it's like reducing mental fatigue as much as possible, reducing the amount of steps that users have to take as much as possible. Like with any business, and especially now online, if you're thinking about things like, if you're building like a tool, or even if you're working with like e-commerce, is just reducing those steps as much as possible so that, so people can just accomplish what they want as quickly as possible, basically. But it's a massive problem in crypto, and I'll get into that later too with the Bitcoin ecosystem because that's where I think it's the biggest problem right now. That place is a disaster. But yeah, so yeah, basically, like with this tool, just with installing, you've unlocked this entire ecosystem. For all of these tools, from charting to bridging to swapping to perps. You can see here that we also have Solana. I don't know if you guys need to move in, but I'll kind of show how it works. So basically, you see that I have the defined icon, but now I switched the network to Solana, and when I click chart, it now opens to Bird Eye. And you can see the icon here in the top right. And when you click it, you can minimize it, and if you click it, it opens right up again. So yeah, this is something that we're going to continuously try to like expand for each chain, because that's another big element of it too is, like you may know how to do this on Ethereum, but then the second you go to Solana, I had this experience 2 weeks ago and I had to ask, what charting tool do I use? What bridge do I use? Like, how do I even get my funds on there? So all of that is now inside Uni Terminal, and you have instant access to it as soon as you install it. So in terms of onboarding beginners, like that's a big thing because, like another essential tool that people have is wallets, but wallets don't help you navigate crypto. Like they allow you to sign transactions, to, like execute these functions if you want. But when you go to your wallet, it's not going to show you like which bridge app to use. It's not going to show you which charting tool to use. And so I think of, like Uni Terminal, it has like some similarities with like, a wallet in the sense of like how like the UI is and how people interact with it. But it also helps users actually navigate the space overall. And that's what really distinguishes it from something like a wallet. When we were building this, I was thinking kind of like it's crazy that something like Rabi or MetaMask hasn't done this already, because that's where I see it really making the most sense is with the wallet tool. So yeah, but overall, so we've included all of these features, like for onboarding users, so they're like instantly like unlock these crypto ecosystems, have access across all of these chains. But we've also extended the functionality between them, because now instead of having to like go to the website, like you can open your charting tool like on Twitter, you can use it and interact with it the same way that you would, like if you were on the charting tool. You can move it, resize it, like do whatever you want. So here I have Hemule, which is like a meme coin related to Vitalik. And so, now you can also do these things from any place on the web. You can do this, like on YouTube if you want, Twitter, Reddit, like literally like any website that you want. And I'll also go over like kind of how it's different, because now you see that I have this open and you see that I have the chart open, but then, if I click this video, the game, hate it or love it. I don't know if anyone here is a fan, but yeah. So you see like the video is playing, skip the ad, and the chart is in the same place. It hasn't changed at all. It's the same, exact same information. And so that's kind of what I mean about like extending the functionality of these tools and like enhancing them, is like it's not only that you get access to the tools, but you can also use them in a different way that would never be possible if, you know, you just went to like the deck screener website yourself. And that applies universally to, you know, like every DApp and tool in the extension where you can use it on any website. Another thing that we've added is, you know, if you go to CoinGecko, and I'll just type in a random meme coin, but here, you know, like you see Grok, and if you highlight and right click the contract address, you see that there's 3 options: trade, scan, and chart. So basically, if you click trade, you can actually set, you know, like any sniper bot that you want. And so you see here, I'm going through the settings menu and I went to sniper, and you see that there's 4 options here: Unibot, Banana Gun, Maestro, WagyBot. And so when you click any of these buttons, it's going to default to that bot. And so I'll do Banana Gun as an example and then click trade, and you'll see here, like, so I opened Telegram and it went to Banana Gun. This is actually a different account, so let me go here. That's why it's not work. That's why it didn't work.
While you're going through the demo, I just love how seamless everything is. And there's kind of a reason behind it. You know, Caesar has a YouTube group that he's built up over the last couple of months. He's been streaming. There's about 2,800 members in there. And as these new chains, you know, as these new tokens, you know, Base, Sol, AVAX, SEI, whatever it may be, INJ is popping. These meme coins are popping on INJ recently. And like, you don't even have telegrams or socials, right? Like, it's crazy the space we're in. But what I see in our group is so often people are asking, well, on this chain, which is the best? Which, you know, which should I use? There's so many questions people are asking. Well, you guys are kind of giving them the best recommendation, and you're taking some of the user uncertainty, which a lot of times people don't even execute trades because they're uncertain. Maybe they don't know for sure if this is the way to do it. And if you're on your own, it's a scary place to be. I'll use my first pre-sale as an example. I think Caesar wanted to choke me out when we were at his house because I asked him about 50 questions just to put one BNB into a pre-sale because I've never done it before, right? So I just wanted to make sure I was good. And I was like, hey, what do I do for, and he's like, bro, you just either buy it or leave me alone. I'm like, okay. And I bought it because it's like, it's not that difficult. He's like, you're putting way too much thought into it, but that's the way I think a lot of traditional, you know, stock market users like myself are, because crypto is so unknown. So yeah, I kind of went around a little bit on the point, but it's just more so I love what you guys are doing, and it hits home with me personally because of experience and knowing how, you know, how tough it is for people to feel comfortable.
Yeah, and also going back to a point you made earlier about kind of like sales funnel, but also, you know, like the reason why we added something like this, like the right-click feature where you can select trade, scan, chart, it's also because, you know, like I said, you know, I've been trading for a long time and I know what the experience is like. And the flow of this sort of action, you know, like without this feature, what I would be doing right now is like I would click, you know, to copy it to the clipboard. I would go to like my browser, I would type in, you know, like deck screener, I would, you know, paste the address and, you know, like find the coin. Then I'm going to click more buttons to trade it. And then, you know, if I want to scan the token, then I have to find another tool to scan the token. So there's like an extensive series of actions. And the deeper you go into crypto, the more of those there are. To even get to the point of like analyzing, you know, a token and deciding like, is this something that I want to buy? And, you know, how do I buy it? And so we're trying to simplify all of that, and adding the right click feature is like one way of doing that, although we have much more, which I'm going to get into. So this is also a little bit of alpha. So right here, right now, what I'm showing you guys is this is the scan feature. And so you see this box here, and it shows Grok, it shows the token address, it shows the chain, supply, and then it has all of this information, and you see here token security. And it shows if the contract is verified, if it's renounced, you know, can they blacklist wallets? It shows the age, everything that you would get from a token scanner basically is in this. And now for another bit of alpha is we're going to be improving this, you know, front end drastically. And so right now it's like a little bit ugly, but like I said, this is an MVP. You know, we built the product, we added, you know, like what we consider the essential features, but we're going to be continuously improving. So one way of doing that is we're working with TTF, which if anyone here is familiar with, is a very popular token scanner that has, you know, like much like more advanced metrics and analysis regarding a token. And so we've already talked to them. We're working on integrating it, you know, as we speak. And so we'll be improving this front end, making it a lot neater, a lot more pretty to look at, and also including all of that information provided by TTF. So soon, when you execute this feature to scan, you're going to be getting data from TTF. Not only that, but another way that we're trying to improve it is we're also doing a native trading bot integration and this kind of like terminal UI. And so pretty much no one gets to see this except me, but you'll see here, this is the front end that we've created for the trading bot. And the way it's going to work is going to be a very similar flow to using a wallet. And so, you know, like if you're on CoinGecko, Twitter, you found a token, you know, and you want to trade it, you know, once you click trade, this is what's going to open, and it's going to open very similar to the way that a wallet does, where you'll get this pop-up, you know, it'll read the token information, give you all of the information about it, such as the price and ticker, and then you'll put in the buy amount, and we'll go to this screen, and then, you know, it'll ask you to confirm your order. You click yes or no. And so that is another way of kind of simplifying the user experience is, you know,
as you're
where,
going through that process, does the scanner on the inside of the bot or the tool, does that have like a CA scanner, like a checker as well? Like
yeah,
to
that's
potentially
exactly what it is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I wasn't sure if that was incorporated like within like the market cap and project or you know, information.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really
So
good because yeah, okay, awesome.
yeah, this is an example. So this is CoinGecko in the background, and this is just a design, by the way. It's not actually like live data or anything. This is just how, like, you know, we designed it. But so this is how we intended to look when you're on CoinGecko, and this is what I mean about improving the UI and the experience. So now when you go to scan a token, you're gonna get this window, which will show the chart. It'll show you, you know, like buys and sells, and it's going to work very similar to Deck Screener, just, you know, like on any other website. And then here on the right side, this panel, you see this is the information from TTF. And so this is how it's going to be organized, where, you know, it'll give you all the, you know, like critical information regarding the token. And then when you click trade, and this is going back to the trading bot UI, that's when you're going to see this window pop up, and that's when you'll be able to execute your trade. So that's kind of what I mean of, you know, like we're very aware of like where the tool is at and how we can improve it. And this is just like a concrete example of like how we tend to improve it by creating that, you know, like improved UI, adding more, you know, like advanced scanning for tokens, and then adding this trading bot UI so that you can quickly, you know, like execute your trades. So basically, you know, the front end will be similar to something like MetaMask or Rabby, but on the back end, you'll be able to execute trades a lot faster like you would with the trading bot. And yeah, you'll be able to, you know, like watch your positions. You can like expand the details and, you know, like see the chart and all of that. Another example of like something we want to add basically is like, you know, for the watch list, like let's say you're browsing through Twitter or some other website, you can actually like, you know, watch your positions from there and see how they're performing, you know, like quickly just by seeing the watch list, setting things like alerts, which I'm sure many people here do through CoinGecko or other tools. So those are the things that like we're thinking about and trying to add. But yeah, so there's a bit of alpha because, you know, I'm not even supposed to be showing these screens to anyone, but you know, like that's what we have in the pipeline right now.
Man, I can't wait. So I did want to know how like projects, because you know with the platform that you're building, there's so much information. So how can you guys monetize what you can maybe do from a reach perspective for projects? And what I say is monetize, like similar to how on other platforms like Dex tools or your wallets like Trust Wallet, it's a big plus and often a bullish sentiment when a project gets its like logo updated, right? So
Yeah.
how can you guys, as a platform that's looking to scale in the future, like I wanted to talk about like that side of the business. We're going to go into the token holders and the revenue side probably towards the end.
Yeah.
But from a business monetization standpoint, like how can you guys essentially get your brand to the point where people would pay you to update their logo? People would pay you potentially to advertise within the Uni Terminal because they see the volume and the user base is there, and there's a good investor kind of group to go and position their project in front of.
Yeah, it's something that, I've been thinking about. And there's, like many different, like avenues that we can take. But in terms of strategy, the way that I see it is, like we're trying to work on the core features, like what I just showed you guys with that chart and scan UI, and then also the trading bot, because these are tools that, like people use every day, multiple times a day. There's a lot of volume going through them. And, just the frequency that people are using them, we think it's critical to get those features worked out ASAP. And then, like for our roadmap, we have a lot of other tools that we plan on adding. But I think, how this, like how this is related to, like marketing or like other projects coming to us is, once we've established, like a consistent set of users, and, like as, people see like the volume growing on the platform, it's in a sense, it's like social proofing, because people then see like, okay, this project is legitimate, they're growing, people are using it, and, like maybe this is a project that we should start looking to collaborate with. And, it takes time to get there. Like with any business, like Binance from day one wasn't what it is today. CoinGecko, like wasn't that way from day one either. But, we're taking steps towards getting there. And, we are thinking about, for example, like, should we offer ads through Uni Terminal? And I think it's something that makes perfect sense. And an example of a project doing that is Brave browser, where basically, like users, they can decide to opt in to receive ads and get paid for viewing those ads. And, you see it with token scanners and other trading bots where they, like put ads for people to view. And yeah, I definitely think it's something that's possible in Uni Terminal. And, it's another way for our users to earn something, like while they're using this tool as well. So yeah, we've discussed it as a team, like that's one way that we plan on implementing it. Another feature that I think is kind of similar to CoinGecko is, so we're developing essentially like, these web like analytical tools. And what I mean by that is, when you're on Twitter or CoinGecko, we're gonna basically, like embed a button, and when you click the button, you'll be able to see expanded information on that project. And so let's say you're on Twitter and you go to the GMX Twitter page. If you click the info button, basically you'll be able to see the TVL, like how much fees they're earning, how much money is staked in it, and just overall how the project is performing. And these are the sort of, like insights that we need in order to make an investment decision. And one of the first places that we go to learn about a project is on Twitter. So that's why I think it makes sense to do it there. But in addition to that, what we're going to add is basically a vote feature. And so you'll be able to basically like vote for that project, and that'll help establish, like which projects are popular among users. And so it's kind of like, gamifying this entire process, and, like giving users like an incentive to like promote their projects, because, that way more people will see it. They'll know that it's like a good quality project. So yeah, like those are, like little things that we can do that I think, like answer your question of like how we, like can market this further, and also build things that are kind of like similar to, CoinGecko basically through the extension.
I know, it's a little bit different, right? Because as you said, a lot of the times projects are building up an app and there's not as many who are going the route of a traditional web extension, or which is, I would say, aligns more with the like the Web 2 side of doing things, which I mean it makes a lot of sense, right? Because it aligns with, you guys are obviously geared towards crypto, but the people who would maybe have more comfort or more of a traditional feel for this type of technology, within the traditional financial markets would come from Web 2. So you're kind of trying to position yourself on that line, without necessarily having to market it that way. So I think it's smart in that sense, for sure. Like I think you guys
Yeah.
have really built out
I mean,
the building blocks in a smart fashion here.
to add to the extension, like I talk to a lot of people in the space, and honestly, kind of like the worst people to talk to are the ones who have been here the longest, because like they're the ones that have like more stubborn minds, because they're kind of like stuck in their ways. And even I'm, like even I'm guilty of it. And Maestro is a concrete example, because with Maestro, I had known about it for like over 6 months, had many friends tell me to use it, and I never did, because I was like, why would I use that when I can just go on Uniswap? And then the first time I used it, I was like, holy shit, like I can't believe I wasn't using this entire time, and it instantly made sense to me. But that's kind of what I mean about like, the crypto natives, they're a little bit more stubborn about things, and they don't like immediately get it because they're stuck in their ways. But the reason why we went with the extension is it came from very practical reasons. And to put it simply, it's the best way to do it. Like, you're never going to have a tool that can do so many things, simultaneously without the extension. And otherwise, what the position that you end up in is you're creating, a dApp front end where you have to like add all of these dApps and tools. But the thing is, you can only fit so many on that one page. And so, the extension, it's not even just about the fact that like we can incorporate so many different dApps and tools. It's also the fact that like we can actually build and add even more functionality to those existing dApps and tools, and how we can even improve the way that people are navigating the web through the extension. Because through the extension, you can do things like embed a button on Twitter, and like so people can see data regarding a project directly on Twitter. Without an extension, that's impossible to do. So that's why why we made the decision to do it. But like we have heard criticism from people being like, like, why did you guys do the extension? Why not just like do a dApp? And really, it's what makes sense in the long term. And I'm very confident that people will see like why as we continue to build on it.
I wanted to go a little bit into like what you guys have been doing, what the process has been like to get that into the Google side of things for Android users. You guys, as I mentioned, around 9K downloads, around 3,000 fairly active users. So it's a good 33% kind of ratio of usage from downloads, which is nice. What are you guys doing to keep pushing that? Like, do you guys have plans to release an iOS version? I know a lot of apps or projects just iOS doesn't make sense just based on the terms and service and stuff. So,
Yeah.
not sure if that would be more of a route, or if you guys would more stick to the website and then people could utilize it via mobile web applications on either platform.
Yeah, so we do have a mobile version that is in the works. Started weeks ago, and we hired, like more full-time developers specifically to work on that. And so, kind of how we're building and why we'll be able to deliver quickly is because, our dev team basically, like, they're working on, like numerous products simultaneously. But like we'll have a team that's dedicated to something like the trading bot, and then we'll have a team that's dedicated to something like the mobile app. So we're working on these things like at the same time along the way. But the mobile app, there's an easier way to get it launched besides doing an iOS app. It doesn't have to go into the store at all, and that's through a progressive web app. So I'm sure you've seen the acronym PWA a lot in the past few weeks, because people are talking about it in regards to trading bots. So that's what we're working on. The reason why the mobile app doesn't exist yet is because there's different concerns with building a mobile app versus a desktop app, because the way people are navigating it is very different, from using a mouse on and also having a larger screen versus, like a small mobile device. And the big reason why, like it's taking a bit is because an essential feature for the mobile app is going to be a chat system. And so basically we're having to actually, build this custom chat system so that people can create alpha groups there, send messages to each other the same way that they would on Telegram. But then another consideration that, we have is you're not going to make people migrate from Telegram to your chat system if they don't have access to similar tools that they have on Telegram. So that's another thing that we have to build on top of it is, we need to have the trading tools integrated, the scanning and chart tools integrated in order for that chat system to be effective. So that's what we're working on now, is having those all integrated with the chat application. But otherwise, the mobile app will be similar in the sense that you'll have access to, like the same dApps and tools. You'll still have access to, like multiple chains through the mobile app. But yeah, it's something that's coming. We're working on it, continuously. And I don't think it'll be too long, before it's released.
Amazing. So I'm kind of chatting with Jay a little bit, the back end, really enjoying the AMA. I'm just, saying thanks again for bringing you guys by the channel. One thing Jay mentioned, and he said, make sure you guys kind of jump into it. Talk about the Telegram integration, right? Because of how easy it is, and because of the fact that you're connected in Telegram with this protocol, you can scrape chat and data from chats or groups that you're involved in. So I did want to have you cover off some of that and just tie it back to what we mentioned earlier with the topic of convenience.
Yeah, that's also not public information, but yeah, I'll talk about it, whatever. So yeah, the feature basically, it's the way that it's going to look, feel, and, work is going to be very similar to live pairs. And so we're creating a front end that, looks exactly the same as live pairs. But what makes it different is that you'll be able to synchronize it with your alpha groups or channels. And, you could even hypothetically do it with your DMs if you want to. And the reason why this is important is because a big issue we all have is, I'm sure you wake up in the morning, you go to your alpha group and you're like, damn, there's 500 messages. Who knows how many coins have been posted, during the time that you were sleeping. And, you're scanning the whole chat trying to figure out, like, what have people talked about. And so by creating this feature in this front end, basically you'll be able to see a list of coins with their performance metrics to see, like, is it pumping, is it dumping, what market cap is it at? And you'll see just a simplified list of what all of those are, so that you can quickly see, like, okay, this is what has been talked about. And the reason why I call it, kind of like alpha signals is because, like, you get these things dropped in a chat, but you miss the message. But now you can see and be like, oh, this is, a coin that was discussed in the group. Like, let me look into it. And that way it's another filter because, through like live pairs, it's a lot of information. There's coins being launched every minute. And, like 99% of them are garbage. But this is a filtered version of that because it's only the coins that are being discussed in your group that you're going to see in that front end. So yeah, that's one of the features that we're working on right now. But yeah, that's not supposed to be public information. So
whoops, a little extra alpha on top of the front end sneak peek we got earlier from Harry. We also got a little extra alpha, but yeah, it just for me really kind of connects things and makes it, like I said, that much more convenient for users, and really should help with the drop off rate that some platforms do struggle with as you go page to page. So really cool. And also we got into it a little bit, not only maybe from a chart perspective, but like there's you know what? I don't know if I want to ask a question because it's alpha, but I was just going to ask, like, how do you guys gauge the quantitative, the charts, the contracts that may be scanned, the market cap conversations versus like the sentiment of it, the qualitative, which is, in my opinion, especially if you're talking meme coin versus utility, the community discussion is more important a lot of the times than the chart, because charts get traded up and down on low liquidity pretty easily. But if the community believes in it, it's often going to be successful based on what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I guess I'm curious what you mean
Do you
in
have
regards to
within
what.
the scraper, is there a quantitative versus quantitative weighting that you put on the information?
Yeah, so, like those are things that we're thinking about as a team is kind of how to improve those signals that users are receiving using these tools. Like in the way that it currently exists, like what we have now in the tool is like the chart and live pairs. Those are like base elementary tools that people need in order to, like examine a project. But, like we're talking to other partners, other projects, about, like integrating, like more advanced analytical tools. And there's a variety of these on the market. They all like perform a little bit differently or, like serve a different purpose. But one example is some people, like an important metric for them is volume. And so they have a tool that just looks at coins based on the volume for that coin. And so those are things that we can add that, like I think, like it's a qualitative enhancement in the sense that you're not just seeing a list with like every like garbage token that, like has, like $1 put into it, or maybe has like one buy or two buys. Like when you add, like a filter like that, or if you use volume as a parameter, it allows you to like filter all of those other tokens that, like don't have anything going on for them. And so that's why, like that's one metric that people use to, like examine these tokens. With the alpha stream, the alpha signals that I was just talking about with the integration with Telegram, I mean, that is another example. And because, like in your alpha groups, if you're in a good alpha group, where it's like you've actually kind of like curated the membership and, like you have people in there that, are like, for one, good at finding tokens, that two are doing this, like very frequently. They're not like, part-time traders or like weekend traders. And so if you synchronize this feature, the alpha signals with that Telegram group, then, like the idea there is pretty simple. It's like you're getting the signals from your alpha group. It's like the people that you rely on to, like kind of select these tokens, and you're getting it in a very simplified format. So yeah, I think that's a concrete example between, just like all of these like quantitative metrics versus like qualitative.
But and again, I know it's something you guys are kind of in the discussion process on. Wasn't sure if I should ask, but for me, just knowing how sentiment or like quantitative versus qualitative matters more in a utility or a meme project, again, it just that weighting is going to be really cool.
Yeah.
And it will also show the strength of the tool, right? Because if the scraper is pulling like quite accurate information in the weighting, over the sample size as you grow it, if it hits like a 50 to 70%, you know, accurate reading, that's pretty good. Again, I'm
Yep.
not somebody who has to be 100%. I understand like that's very few and far between. For me, if you're hitting more than 50% of your predictions, like that's
Yeah,
in the
that's
crypto space,
massive.
a very, 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 I mean, even in the stock market, that would be even bigger. But like this space, just because of how quick they can move and how much volatility they have, if you're hitting 50% or higher, that could be massive. So yeah,
Yeah.
love that. I think that's really smart. Now, within the actual platform themselves, do you guys have any token gates or benefits for individuals who are actually now holding the unit token with like while trying to utilize the ecosystem? I believe there's a free mode within, like you could utilize the platform, but as most, there's benefits for being a token holder as well.
Yeah, so what the token gives you basically is exposure to the growth of Uni Terminal. And so there's this simple graphic in our Git book that kind of explains, like where it's coming from and how it's going back to the token. But yeah, in this circle here, you see native trading bot fees. Like I mentioned, like we're going to be integrating that into the extension soon. Subscription fees, integration, referral commissions, and then the 5.5 trading tax. And so the 5.5 trading tax, the reason it's there is for runway because, so far we funded this project out of our own pockets. And I know it's hard to believe for some people, but it's very expensive to do these things. And so, like we're taking a risk ourselves by like fronting that money. But yeah, so the project thus far has been funded just by myself and the lead developer, whereas, like we're paying the other developers to build this, and, paying for the marketing and so on. So that's why the tax is there, is just for runway. It's not intended to be permanent. And, like once we like start actually, like once we like hit, like let's say like $1 million and we are actually like have users pushing volume through the tool, generating revenue, then like that's when we'll eliminate the trading tax, because I think there is a huge benefit to eliminating it, which is, like it incentivizes more people to buy because they're not taking, like that 10% tax on entering and exiting. And then also like in the future for centralized exchanges, you need to get rid of the tax in order to do that, because there's no tax tokens on centralized exchanges. But yeah, to go through each of the sources. So the native trading bot fees is, like I described, the trading bot that we're building. We're building it so that it's multi-chain, will be accessible through Ethereum, Arbitrum, BSC, and we'll continue expanding on that as well. The first priorities for us are going to be EVM and then Solana. So we're also working on integrating Solana to the trading bot so that users can trade across there. And the reason that's a big priority for us is because, like I pulled up this page on DeFi Llama, but yeah, when you look at these protocols and their ranking by fees and revenue, you see like the top earning projects here are basically decentralized exchanges, perp sticks, and then here in the services category, you see trading bots. And so pretty much in the top 20, you already have Banana Gun and Maestro. Like, and that's massive because these are like fairly new tools that haven't even been around for a year. But, like Maestro, as an example, they're earning $3.25 million per month, so that's a pretty insane amount of money. And that's why we want to integrate those sort of features like a native trading bot is, because we want to be earning fees like that. And then that is going to go back to the token. And
Wait, I didn't want to cut you off, Harry, but you brought up Maestro, and it's a really, brought up something for me that I was curious about because we've seen a couple of large-scale exploits on Maestro, which is really
yeah,
weird. When we're talking about the size and some of the wallets linked, I mean, personally, I know somebody who had $100,000 exploited
yeah,
through Maestro. Like, and it's a friend of mine that I've known for over 2 years. Like, one of the few people I would actually call a friend that I've met anonymously. And yeah, he
yeah,
lost 100K after this guy's had a rough go. He got scammed out of 300K. Like, they did a Bitcoin exchange for a token, did a 5K exchange. Everything cleared, went through properly, no issues. It was like set up through a private group and friends that were vetted and verified. And then they did the big exchange. And the way that it works, because the Bitcoin network is slower confirmation of transactions versus how
yeah,
he was sending. Transaction went through. The second they received his, they canceled theirs on the network and then just fucking blocked and deleted every single piece of conversation.
yeah,
Yeah. So, but like the exploit on Maestro, I was really shocked that something like that had happened and then happened again a couple months later to the amount of like a few $1 million, like from those wallets that were impacted. And I mean, it doesn't seem like there was a big safeguard or anything done to correct that. So there does appear, at least like from my perception, like there's a gap that exists and there's an opportunity for somebody to come in and maybe position themselves as something more secure on that
yeah.
side. So I was really hoping you could maybe touch on some of the security aspects or ways in which you feel Unit and Unit Terminal could outperform something like Maestro when we've seen them openly drop the ball at least 2 times that I know, and I think there was another one that I heard of, but I'm just not 100% confident.
Yeah, it happened to Unibot and it happened to Maestro, and in both cases it was because they tried to create their custom router instead of just using Uniswap, and that's where it gets dangerous because you're talking about, like new code. It hasn't really been, like battle tested basically, and so, like it needs to be like very intensively audited and, like just, just examined to the point that, like it's as secure as possible. And that's difficult for new projects to do because one, limited funding and limited resources, even from the perspective of like their developer team. But yeah, with our trading bot, it's basically just going through the Uniswap router. And so basically there isn't any risk there unless Uniswap got hacked, which is, you know, a problem beyond us. And if that happens, then crypto is probably broken for a while. But yeah, that was what happened with Maestro and Unibot. They developed their own custom router, and yeah, it got exploited very quickly, and that's why it's a terrible idea to do something like that. Now, whether it's impossible, no, but you know, if you're going to do it, then make sure it's being audited, you know, extensively. So yeah, I guess that's my answer to that.
Yeah, no, it definitely does, and I appreciate the extra context you provided too on exactly why the exploit did occur, and it does kind of it shows that you're just really synced with the market and kind of the projects that yes can potentially be considered competitors. In my opinion, there is enough market share, and most savvy traders have multiple tools at their disposal. They don't just rely on one. So,
Yeah, I
no,
guess I
again, like,
can. Another way to answer that question is in terms of like the architecture of Uni Terminal is we're more focused on the user experience and the front end and you know just like how things like look and feel for our users. And so when we're integrating you know like these dApps and tools, we're not the ones who are building them. And so when we're working with other projects to integrate these things, these are products that have been on the market for a long time that have dedicated teams to them. And even in terms of like, I guess from a development perspective, it's not an uncommon method that projects use. And so like, for example, if you go to Xerion, you can see all the projects that are integrating Xerion for their portfolio tracker. And overall, it's best to work this way because, you know, like you can't have one team developing all of these things like simultaneously. And just because of the sheer amount of work, it's impossible for anyone to do except over an extended time period. And so, you know, these products are built by working with like other, you know, it could be a small provider or it could be like a large provider. But, you know, the way these tools are being built, even things like Rabby, if you go to the swap on Rabby, that swap isn't built by Rabby. You know, what they're doing is on the back end, they've integrated, you know, the APIs from 1inch, from Kyber Swap, and that is actually like what the user is executing their trade on. So Rabby is just the front end. And I bring that up because that is how Uni Terminal is designed, is similar way. We're doing API integrations with these projects. And overall, it works better for everyone. And I think it's a big reason why projects are like eager to partner with us too, is because what we're doing is like bringing them users, you know, like for them, it's like free business basically. And you know, like we're extending the functionality like of their tools, of their products. But yeah, it makes the most sense because if you want to have like a good trading bot, you need a team that is dedicated just to the trading bot. If you want to have a good perp stacks, you know, the same logic applies. It's like you need a team that's dedicated to that. So that's why, you know, like it's designed the way that it is, and that's why we work with these projects. But yeah, to talk more about the revenue share and the token. Like I said, the main reason is, yeah, you get exposure to the growth of this project, but you also get exposure to every single integration in the tool. And so right now we're at 44 dApps and tools, and 16 of them are currently earning commission. So anytime that someone interacts with them, you know, like we're earning money for that. So when someone uses the right click to trade feature, or if they use the Gamblify or Perpstex, then we're earning money on that. And that is the incentive for us to integrate them as well. And why we include these products is, yeah, it's, you know, like as users are navigating these things, you know, like they, you know, have this like enhanced experience, but on the other side of it, you know, for the project and the token holders, we're also earning money off of it. And so that is only going to continuously expand with every chain that we expand to, and also every product that we integrate. And you know, and now imagine this over like multiple chains, you know, with like each perp stacks or aggregator and bridge. and literally we could get to like pretty much like 100, like revenue streams basically, which is absolutely ridiculous for a tool, but it's possible with this extension design. And that's not a gimmick. It's just, that's literally how things work on the back end. So the breakdown for the holders, basically, it's going to be 50-50. So 50% going back to the token and holders, and then 50% for the team. And then we'll be adjusting it, like over time as the project grows. But like I said, we need runway to continue building. But a 50-50 split is actually very fair considering how things work in the market right now and how like other projects are distributing their revenue. But yeah, 20% is going to go directly to holders, and that's across the board from all of these products. And then 30% is going to go to buying and burning the token. And the reason why we split it up that way is because, there's a lot of debate about like what is better, whether you should buy and burn. Some projects only do buy and burn. They don't do any distribution to the holders. But, like I think that like, both are okay. Some people, they want to get that ETH payment because it's more secure for them. They have the money in their wallet, and, like they don't have to worry about like any volatility or the price of the token fluctuating. And then the buy and burn, I think, is important because ultimately you also want to support the tokens, because, if all of this money is just being distributed directly to the holders, then, at any point that person could sell. Basically, the reason it's set up that way is because that way, like both the token gets something and the holders themselves. And so, doing that split, like 20% to holders, 30% to the buy and burn, I think is like a fair, like compromise.
I think that's smart. Now, is the revenue going to be automatic when it's built up, or like is it going to be similar to what we see with some projects? It builds until it hits like a X threshold, whatever it may be, and then once that's triggered, the distribution happens to holders, or is it going to be an ongoing type thing? Just trying to figure out what the cost may be on the distribution from a blockchain perspective.
So it's going to be automatic. You don't have to do anything. Just hold the tokens in your wallet, and then, like you'll receive ETH, and it'll be weekly distributions, and also for the buy and burn. So yeah, we're trying to make it as simple as possible. We are contemplating like other ways to incentivize holders even more through, like staking program, airdrops, stuff like that. So the airdrop campaign is actually ongoing right now. And to participate in that, it's basically just, fill the Zealy tasks, which are now available, and you can get through our Discord or going to the Zealy website. And then the other way is just by, using the tool yourself. And then that way, like you'll be eligible for the airdrop once we distribute it. And so with the airdrop, we plan on doing it basically like quarterly. And so, it'll be like a constant incentive for users and new users.
Yeah, and now how does because you mentioned like some of the, affiliate, like referral and revenue sources. How are you guys going to build that up from like an affiliate or an ambassador standpoint? Like what's the ratio that somebody would need to have traded within the Uni Terminal platform for somebody to like receive a reward or a benefit, or maybe a discount on their own future trade or something like that?
Yeah, there's no specific requirement. What complicates it is just the gas fees on Ethereum, because if you're trying to distribute, to so many like wallets, then the gas is going to be ridiculous to do that distribution. So that's really the only factor that complicates it. And some projects, they set a limit. Like, for example, it has to reach like this threshold of like 0.1, Ethereum in order to distribute it. But then on other chains like Solana, that's not a concern because it's not even a penny to send a transaction there. So yeah, it's really going to depend at the end of the day on like the gas costs and, just the cost of doing that distribution. But in terms of earning commission for referrals and all of that, yeah, it'll be for any activity that person does. And so like with a trading bot, for example, like we'll have like a 0.5% fee on trades. And, like to anyone that you refer, basically you can earn, 10% of that. And so if you're referring a lot of people, then, like you're getting that, that 10%, like across all of their trades perpetually. So, it depends on how active you are and how good you are at recruiting people, but, it can be a substantial amount of money. The other thing to add to this, and like I said before, is, we're earning commission on literally over, like we're at from 16 different sources at the moment, but that's going to be continuously expanding. And so I didn't really talk about the roadmap during this call, or not, I guess, like specifically the roadmap. But so the things that we're looking at, like are the trading bot, the mobile app. We have plans to expand to Bitcoin and other chains, although Bitcoin is the priority right now. Beyond that, there's also projects that we're talking about to become front-end operators for. And so what that means is, for example, we'll have basically, like a native Gamblefied app in Uni Terminal, and then also native perps. And one of the projects that we talked to, for example, is I keep mentioning this because I get contacted by projects every day for partnerships, and I'm not just looking for partnerships because of like marketing or like the attention that it's going to give us. I'm looking for projects that are serious and actually building something that people would genuinely use and that are going to last, like beyond like the next 12 months. I'm not looking to partner with a project that is only going to be alive for like 2 weeks and then no one's going to like ever care about it again, or they're going to like rug basically. And so even for those integrations, like with the perp stacks, for example, our partner for that is the same provider for Woo, which if anyone here knows is like Woo is perp stacks it's basically a futures trading platform that is at a $500 million market cap. And so like those are the types of projects that we have access to and that we want to work with. But going back to the revenue and how that relates to that is, perps is an activity that generates a ton of volume and a ton of fees for projects. And that's why we want to get into it. And so, like you'll also have exposure to that, like through referrals by holding the token because of the buy and burn, and then also because of the revenue share distribution. And so, yeah, like those are the kinds of things that like we have on the agenda, to not only make the project like grow and make more money, but also to reward holders. So yeah, you're honestly getting exposure to a lot of things by being a Uni Terminal holder.
For me, like as I said, the convenience aspect is really cool. You guys have, as you alluded to, like potentially, as it grows, you're gonna have more than one, just to say the least, revenue streams coming in, and the convenience side, the ease of use, the click through portal being minimized for me is it can just I think a lot of people underestimate it, and until you've worked in a job where you do lose 20-30% of your potential business just because of a few extra links or click throughs, like until you've seen it firsthand and understand like the actual implications, you might not understand why. Like I'm a little bit more bullish on the convenience and that side, but I've seen it, I've lived it, and especially when it comes to crypto, when time is very important. Time can be 5x's sometimes in this space, depending on how quickly something is moving. So
Yeah.
having that convenience, that ease of use, minimizing your timing, it's really, really good. And you touched on some of the security aspects so that, people can feel a little bit more comfortable. You're not going with the private router as you had alluded to, which, kind of compromised and it led to the exploits with some of these other larger players. Marketing, branding wise, it seems like you guys have been doing some good things. I know you guys got that exciting AMA coming up with OTC next week on the 27th.
Yeah.
Just saw your announcement drop yesterday. And again, I've seen a few people. I know people that are like larger individuals, some whales in the space. And funny enough, I was actually directly shilled this in a whale group being like, Maurice, you got to check it out. And that's what I said in my intro. And I was impressed with was impressed with my research, was impressed with what I saw. And, I know the marketer on this one, so him and I got to chatting, and Yeah, he says like the same thing. Like the concept's really solid. Your passion is, off the charts, which came out in 5 minutes of our prep call on Monday. It's just all about getting more exposure and kind of bringing in users to the project. But, partnerships are coming in fast and furious. You have no shortage there. The growth of the application itself looks clean. The download rates are growing. So, there are a lot of positives. I'm not even going to bring up the chart because I'm not a chart guy. Like personally, I don't really, charts are something you can't control. You can only control the work you put in, the transparency you have towards the community, and how active you are. And from what I've heard from multiple people, you're always in the community. You're always working, and even in our week of conversation, we're online all weekend. Like you're always building. You're always working on the partnerships. So I have a lot of respect for your work ethic on this one. All I just have to say to the community is go and check out what they're building. Go in, maybe download if you're an Android user, download the web application and check it out. But trading tools, convenience, like these are words, buzzwords, things I see talked about in every whale group, every private group, every public telegram, every community, even within projects are asking, or somebody's in there, how can I do this better? How can I do this faster? How can I do this more efficiently? Well, based on the conversation, what I heard about the AMA, from what you guys are building up there, this would be an alternative or an option for an individual to kind of come in and really have an all-in-one hub for their trading. And, we talked about onboarding and education and just making sure that people can really navigate the surplus of data that you guys have within, Uni Terminal there. But really like the concept. You've impressed me with, your work ethic and the passion that you have for it. I know we didn't get to everything, so I'll give you maybe a couple of minutes to just close out any major points you think we missed, and then we'll have like a little 5-10 minute cool down, final comments. But I want to give you maybe 5 minutes. Any important, really big calls to action, things that you guys are pushing over the holiday break, moving into Q1, because I know within the community there's a lot of excitement for Q1 2024, and I'm really happy that our community had the chance to hear about it prior to that.
Yeah, I think Q1, the first quarter of 2024 is, there's going to be a lot going on. We'll have a lot more of like these core features added. The trading bot for Ethereum, Solana, with the native perp stacks, which is also going to be multi-chain and gasless swaps. And, with our partner there, we're getting like a 80-20 split, 80% for us. So it's a lot of money for us. But I think overall, kind of like to summarize it and, like add a bit in terms of, where we are as a product, what we want to do and what it means in like dollar amounts. But, like that comparison from the review I showed at the beginning and basically like the Binance of on-chain tooling is when you look at these products like Binance, Coinbase, or these businesses, like they have multiple products within that for navigating Web3, for, like trading on a SEX, centralized exchange, like getting into NFTs, all of that. And Uni Terminal, I think, is positioned in a similar way where it's like, there's multiple revenue streams for this business, like we're incorporating a lot of dApps and tools. And I think we're like, well positioned to onboard retail by like simplifying the experience for them. But overall, I think the tool has something for everyone, whether they're a beginner or whether they're an advanced trader. And the goal with this too is also to turn beginners into advanced traders, which is why we need, the advanced tools in there as well. So that's kind of what I mean. And, I think it's going to like bridge that gap between the beginners and the advanced. But also, in terms of our roadmap and, like what this means in terms of, like what this project can earn, what holders can earn. When you look at the top, like protocols by, like fees and revenue, you're looking at, decentralized exchanges, you're looking at wallets, you're looking at trading bots, bridge dApps, and, Uni Terminal is going to encompass literally all of that. And, you're talking about literally like hundreds of millions of dollars. And so, if these are all things people can go and examine themselves and see how much these protocols are earning. But just imagine, like what happens when you have all of that inside one tool. And, like what that means for you as a holder and what it means for the project in the long term. So I'll end on that note.
I know there's some, there's actually one question here that I didn't get to that I'm going to just quickly read out. It is more about the project, but I'll just kind of, for anybody still listening, like similar to how you can build up a custom token watch list on these other, charting platforms, people are just wondering what customization they can have and how much or how many tokens could they be, could be built into a watch list if that's a feature that you guys have. And I know there's signals that you guys have and will, be updating and adding in more in the future. So with their watch list, just how do the signals or potential like automated buying come into play with a watch list? Like that's kind of a question someone was curious about.
Yeah, so there's two different ways to think about it, and it has to do with how it is used or what type of watch list. And so when it comes to something like, for example, like with the trading bot and creating a watch list for it, the difficulty there is that basically it's like you have to pretty much scan, like entire blockchain, and you have to make these queries continuously, like pretty much like infinitely, right? And the problem, it becomes more and more expensive and more difficult to do the more users that you have. And then the other critical part of it, and this is why you don't see it in, like any trading bot to this day, unless you like are paying extra for it, is it's actually going to slow down the performance of the trading bot, because it's just more that it has to process. And so the other side of it is a watch list with like a chart, for example. Like if a chart takes a little bit to like load and, like check your list or whatever, that's fine because you're not trying to execute a trade like within, like a split second or like in under like, like 2-3 seconds. So that doesn't really matter because you're just browsing, like kind of like checking your list, seeing what tokens you want to buy. So like for the chart and like the terminal UI, you are going to be able to like, create a list and also customize that list. Also, once we integrate the like web analytics on like Twitter and stuff, you'll also be able to create a watch list there. And so you'll be able to like create lists and add projects to that, like pretty much to the extent that you want. But with the trading bot, the reason why that isn't possible is for the reasons I just mentioned, which is it's one, very expensive to do, and because it's like constantly querying for that information, and then secondly, it slows down the performance of the trading bot, which is why existing trading bots don't do it.
I didn't even think about that. So again, I appreciate the insight and thanks so much. That was XYZ who had the question. Again, really, really cool. You guys have clearly gone a long way to make sure the platform is highly integratable, very functional, and you guys have gone a lot of different DApp integrations, integrated a number of different trading tools within your own platform just to have the best kind of coverage across the market. So yeah, it's really, really solid. Again, it's not even a month old too, right? So just hearing your vision, hearing like your outlook on the project, has me optimistic. Again, I know always just, jump in the community, do your own research, I'll hit them with the disclaimers and whatnot. But just listening to you, it was refreshing and you clearly have the passion. I'm excited to see what next year looks like, honestly, as you guys kind of hit that 1 month anniversary. I think people are pretty optimistic for 2024. Really enjoyed the AMA. He is extremely knowledgeable about a space that's been popping off recently. For anybody who's been following the ordinals or the BRC20 side of things, we've seen, I know Caesar was talking about in the private group, but there's so many project names I've been tracking, but there was one that Caesar and the guys were talking about that's just been going absolutely nuts on that network. But I'm going to throw the
Yeah.
mic to Harry. This is more so of a showcase for him. He's going to add a lot of, knowledge and really hopefully people that are listening maybe start to open up their eyes to the potential of that network. Although it's, as you said, in a very tumultuous time, there's a lot of future potential as everyone sees. And if they can clean up some of that, you guys
Yeah.
might get some really good knowledge that you can apply to that network in the future. So, Harry, floor is yours. Thanks for hanging out for the extra 10, 15 minutes or whatever we do. But you're very knowledgeable at this, and education for me is power. And thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for Bitcoin, I'll start by saying the things that you absolutely need to go look into, and you can write this down if you want, put it in your notes, whatever, but you absolutely need to be looking at track projects like RuneX, RUNEX, also projects like Saturn, and yeah, another big one, basically like new standard that is an improvement on BRC20, which is CBRC20. And then the developer who's building an AMM for that, AMM similar to like Uniswap is going to be Moto, MOTO. So those are things that you should all be researching ASAP, and things that, like I've been researching myself. And track, I'll start off with that one because to me that's the biggest one, but track is basically like the chain link or the graph of Bitcoin. And so what they're building is basically an indexer and Oracle for Bitcoin and inscriptions. And that's important because it's a critical primitive in order to build, this like DeFi ecosystem on Bitcoin. Without the indexer and Oracle, you can't build anything on Bitcoin. And so that's why it's so important. Like from what I've been hearing, it's looking like first quarter 2024 is when TAP is expected to release. And then I think that's when we're going to start seeing like significant innovation on Bitcoin, because it'll start enabling, DeFi to proliferate there. So yeah, those are my recommendations. But yeah, I've been heavily invested in the Bitcoin ecosystem. I hold basically like all the, like main NFTs, holds, like BRC20, SRC20, pretty much everything. And the reason why I said it's a disaster over there is because of these issues with like the indexers, for example. Like right now, they're all centralized, and so it's a single party providing it. Like Unisat is the biggest one. You have others like OpenStamp, StampScan, but the problem is that the ecosystem is basically, it's very fragmented, and so in order for developers to build there, it's pretty difficult. Because you're basically just starting off from scratch. And so even for us to pivot there, we just had a call like at 1 a.m. yesterday talking about all of this and, like how we're going to get into it and, solutions that we can come up with. But yeah, like our goal is to eventually like pivot into the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we're trying to do that soon. But what we're trying to do there is basically kind of build, and connect not only just things like the indexer, but, bridges so people can get their funds there. Also an aggregator so that people can make swaps like more efficiently, and also, get accurate like pricing information, like project metrics. And yeah, those things, they're like scattered all over the place, but I see that the infrastructure is coming together, just that no one has put it together yet. And I think this is kind of like, where my role comes in at Uni Terminal, because like I said, I'm not a developer, and I have a kind of like love and hate relationship with developers, because like they're brilliant and they can build incredible things, but they absolutely suck at understanding users many times, and also building products that people even want to begin with. And so since my time is actually spent navigating these things myself, like figuring out how to use them and how to use them efficiently, that's like where my role comes in at Uni Terminals, because that's what I can add and kind of help provide guidance for Uni Terminal in the long term. And so, yeah, with Bitcoin is, like we want to assemble all of those things together, and yeah, just make it easier for people to, like find tokens to buy, to start getting into ordinals, start buying NFTs, and bring that all together to eliminate that issue with the, like the segregation between, like each of the different like token standards and ecosystems. So yeah, that's, like kind of where we're trying to go there.
That, and I know like one of the, when you talk to a traditional investor, maybe somebody who came into crypto on like the BSC or a lower entry chain or price point, like how do you feel? How do you feel like the average person in the space may be able to get onboarded onto like that the Bitcoin network? Because right now, obviously, thinking about it, not everybody has like $40,000 out there to buy Bitcoin, or even would feel like a purchase of a 0.25 of Bitcoin for 10K would be worth it, right? Because you're getting so
Yeah.
little. So like, how do you? And this is more of an open question. How do you envision like the average retail person kind of jumping in and getting involved on like the BRC chain, like they did with ETH and BNB in the past?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the reason why it's taken so long to grow is because, using Bitcoin is just a very ugly and confusing experience. And so I got into it, like last spring, and I was pretty early to like watching the developments there. But even for me getting into it, I had like long discussions with a friend of mine and just helping me navigate it. And I felt, the same way that a beginner would. And, like when I was trying to buy Ordi for the first time, for example, as I'm sending the transaction, I'm like, okay, let me send a small amount to make sure I'm doing it correctly and that, like I'm not rugging myself. And so, like with Uni Terminal, it's like, how can we solve that sort of issue for users? And that's kind of what I mean is like, if you go to this marketplace, one example that I had this week was like, I was trying to buy a board, which was a CBRC20 token. And, like as I'm looking at the website, like even the way it's organized, I'm like, where the hell are the listings? Like, why can't I even find where to buy this token to begin with? Never mind even executing the transaction. And then when you look at the transaction, with Bitcoin wallets, you're going to see input, output, and there's nothing there that is easily understandable for like the average human being, because you're looking at it, you're just seeing numbers. You have no idea what these things mean. And so that's why it's a scary experience, because, with MetaMask at the very least, and with Rabby especially, is that they translated these things, from a language that only developers could understand to what, like any lay person could understand, so that they know like, okay, I'm making a swap right now for this amount and this is what I'm going to get in return, when I hit the confirm button. And so that's the angle we're coming at it from, is simplifying that, from the transaction to the navigation of the ecosystem, to buying, an NFT or token. And yeah, for bringing on retail and beginners, unless teams start looking at it from that perspective, it's like, it's one thing to like be able to like push a button to execute a transaction, versus doing it in a way that like is visually appealing for users and easy to understand. And so with the latter, making it easy to understand is, like that's what we want to accomplish. So
Yeah, man, appreciate the extra time. Really big fan of what you're doing. I love that, like I said, love the convenience and love the knowledge that you're bringing into the space. Project's not even a month old. You guys have some solid user numbers, some solid download numbers. As you touched on, multiple revenue streams come into play as scaling happens. So, I'll be keeping a close eye on this one. I definitely recommend you guys jump into the community, pay attention. They had that big update drop yesterday with OTC. They have their follow-up AMA on the 27th. I'm going to be tuning in. I know I told Jay I'd jump in and just kind of show some support there. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's discussed in that AMA. But for anybody looking to follow up, jump in their community, follow them on their socials. They got a lot of information on the website, including their white paper and everything. So you guys can really kind of deep dive it and then, ask any questions you may have in the community. But really enjoyed the presentation. Appreciate the extra 15 minutes you gave us, Harry, because I know you're always busy on the back end there. And yeah, I'll let you go, and just really enjoyed everything. You guys, Jay and Marcel, I'll give him another shout out, did not oversell it. And I did enjoy the research and really enjoyed talking to you. That was my favorite part. So
yeah, thanks a lot for the AMA. And yeah, I hope people are able to get something out of it. But yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to like tag me in the chat or send me a message, and I'll try to respond and get back to you soon. But yeah, the other thing I would say is, like what we're really looking for from people who, like are using the tool is just constant feedback. Like we need it because yeah, we're building it for people to use. So like anything that bothers you or like a feature that is missing that you think would be good to add, like I appreciate all of that sort of feedback. And like very often we do discuss it as a team. So yeah, like we're trying to have an actual like relationship with like the users and community because you're the people that we're building for. So yeah, feel free to send us a note in the chat.